What's good, everyone? Welcome to the Power Up Podcast. I am your host, Sir Snorlax, aka Dennis, and this is episode number 19. Now, my background's just a little bit different just because we had some housework done and it's still ongoing. So do excuse any distracting lights behind me over here. But we've got a very special episode today. Today's episode will serve as the prelude to my top games of all time list. That will be coming in the very near future. But first, we're going to get into some news. So, kicking it right out the gate, coming from VGC by Chris Scullion. Konami instantly shot down the Wachowskis' request to have Hideo Kojima make a Matrix game, it's claimed. Konami, really? You keep pissing me off here. According to former Konami Vice President of Licensing Christopher Bergstresser, who recently gave Time Extension more detail on the long-running rumors that Kojima was in discussions to potentially make a Matrix game. According to Bergstresser, those discussions didn't really continue beyond a single sentence when a Konami executive refused the proposal right away. Bergstresser recalled that because the Wachowskis were admirers of Kojima's work, they wanted to meet up with him when The Matrix was set to have its Japanese premiere. However, when the question of Kojima potentially working on a Matrix game was brought up, Konami's Kazumi Kitawe, I hope I said that correctly, who would go on to become CEO of Konami Digital Entertainment a few years later, wasn't interested. The Wachowskis were big fans of Kojima, Bergstresser said. So Kasumi, Kojima, Aki Saito, who still works with Kojima, and I were at Konami HQ, and we got the call from the Wachowskis, who wanted to come in and meet with Kojima. So they did. The two of them came in with their concept artists, and effectively they said to Kojima, "We really want you to do the Matrix game. Can you do that?" Aki translated this into Japanese for Mr. Kitawe, and Kitawe just looked at them and plainly told them no. We did still get to enjoy the Matrix Japanese premiere and after party, though. Instead, the Matrix video game was developed by Shiny Entertainment, who were the makers of Earthworm Jim and MDK and Messiah, and released in 2003 as Enter the Matrix. While Enter the Matrix was a commercial success, selling 5 million copies within a year, it wasn't critically well received and is generally considered these days to have been an underwhelming game. I don't feel that way, but we'll digress. Despite offering over an hour of original footage written and directed by the Wachowskis. It was followed by in 2005 by the now defunct PC game The Matrix Online before Shiny returned in 2005 with The Matrix Path of Neo, which this time recreated moments from the films. Since then, there haven't been any Matrix video games, only cameos in games like Multiverses. In 2021, however, Epic Games released The Matrix Awakens, a tech demo designed to show off the power of Unreal Engine 5. Now, there was a follow-up article, again, by Chris Scullion and VGC. No one ever told me, Kojima says, if he'd known the Wachowskis wanted him to make a Matrix game, it could have happened. Earlier this week, Konami's Vice President of Licensing, Christopher Bergstresser, claimed that Konami's Kasumi Kitawe would go on to become CEO of Konami Digital Entertainment a few years later, immediately denied a request to have Kojima make a Matrix game when the Wachowskis visited the company at the time of the first movie's Japanese premiere. The two of them came in with their concept artists, and effectively they said to Kojima, "We really want you to do Matrix game." So we're gonna skip all over that because we already talked about that. Now Kojima has responded to the story posted on his X account that while the meeting with Kitawa did take place, Kojima didn't arrive at Konami's HQ until it had already ended, meaning he wasn't aware of such a request. I was surprised to see on social media that the Wachowski sisters had offered me a Matrix game project back in 1999. In all these 26 years, no one ever told me such a conversation taking place. At the time, we were mutual fans and exchanged emails. The Matrix hadn't been released in Japan yet, but I had already seen it in theaters in the US and at a preview screening. The Wachowskis came to Japan for promotion. I believe I met them 3 times. In the morning, we had a Famitsu interview in Shinjuku. That time, comic book artist Jeff Darrow joined us for the talk session. In the afternoon, they were invited to the headquarters of Konami's CS division. Back then, I was vice president of KCE Japan, a wholly owned subsidiary. When I arrived at the headquarters, their meeting with Mr. Kitawa, the head of the CS division, had just ended. I joined them afterwards. We chatted about an hour without an interpreter. Aki wasn't even there. I think John Gaeta, the visual effects supervisor, was also present. That evening, I attended the premiere screening and party where I also met Joel Silver. Even then, there was no mention of an offer. Kojima says that if he had known an offer had been made, we might have been able to work on a game with the Wachowskis despite his other responsibilities at the time. At that time, I was already extremely busy with Metal Gear Solid 2 and probably couldn't have accepted the offer right away, he wrote. But if someone had told me, maybe there could have been a way to make it work. Now, I'm just going to throw this out there. Why can't we revisit that conversation? Why not make a new Matrix game? Kojima Productions, Sony, the Wachowskis. Just throwing that out there for everyone. Just throwing that out there. So, moving on to our next story. Animal Crossing New Horizons is getting a Switch 2 edition and a huge free update. This write-up comes from Chris Scullion. The Switch 2 edition of the game will be coming January 15th of 2026 alongside a significant free update to the base game for those still playing it on the original Switch. The free update will include, among other additions, new collaboration content from the likes of LEGO and playable retro Nintendo games. According to Nintendo, the Switch 2 edition will include enhanced resolution, mouse controls using the Joy-Con 2 controller, expanded online play, and more features exclusive to the Nintendo Switch 2. Also included a new item in Nook's Cranny, the megaphone, which lets players call to other residents using the Nintendo Switch 2's microphone. Expanded online features for the Nintendo Switch 2 include support up to 12 players as long as they all have the Nintendo Switch 2 edition versus 8 players in the standard version. Switch 2 camera support, letting players show their faces alongside their characters as well. The new Animal Crossing New Horizons Switch 2 edition will cost $64.99 both digitally and physically. A paid upgrade pack will also be available for $4.99. In addition to the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, a free update version 3.0 will be released for both Switch and Switch 2, including a new hotel on the pier run by Capan's family. They bring in guests from off the island, and players can decorate guest rooms based on various themes to make sure guests enjoy their stay. The ability for players to upgrade their home storage 2 more times, allowing them to store up to 9,000 items instead of the previous 5,000 items. A new dream location called Slumber Island will also be added, allowing players to create and decorate up to 3 of their own islands and invite players over to them without having to disrupt their main island. New collaborations will also be added to the game, featuring items based on LEGO, The Legend of Zelda, and Splatoon. Playable retro game consoles, which require a Nintendo Switch Online subscription, will also be available. I mean, it was bound to happen. I know there's been a lot of talks of us getting a brand new Animal Crossing, but I think this is going to hold everyone over. Uh, a brand new updated version of the Switch of the game to the Switch 2 plus a free update, which sounds huge. I'm not an Animal Crossing person, but to all my Animal Crossing friends out there, you know who I'm talking to. Uh, Hopefully, you'll be able to enjoy this brand new update. Moving on to our next story, we got a couple of delays. Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra has received another delay beyond early 2026. The game was previously set to release in 2025 and now was officially delayed to early 2026. This write-up comes from Chris Scullion. Now, in a statement posted on its official X account, publisher Skydance Games announced that the game has now officially been delayed further through an unconfirmed release window. At Skydance Games, our goal is to deliver unforgettable premium games that honor the characters and worlds we're fortunate to work with, the statement reads. Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra is an ambitious project, and we're committed to ensuring it meets the level of quality that our team, players, and fans expect. To fully realize our vision for Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra, we've made the decision to shift our release window beyond early 2026. We're grateful for the passion and support from the community and players around the world. The team is working hard to create something truly special, and we look forward to sharing more with you as development progresses. Marvel 1943 was first revealed March 2024 during an Unreal Engine showcase at the Game Developers Conference. The game, which stars Drew Morelian as Captain America and Kyrie Payton as Black Panther, is the latest adventure from Amy Higgins, the writer and creative director of the first three Uncharted games. According to the official plot synopsis for Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra, in the world and in the chaos of war worlds collide. Captain America and Azuri, the Black Panther of the 1940s, must overcome their differences and form an uneasy alliance to confront their common enemy. Fighting alongside Gabriel Jones of the Howling Commandos and Anali, a Wakandan spy embedded in occupied Paris, they must join forces to stop a sinister plot that threatens to turn the havoc of World War II into the ultimate rise of Hydra. Sad news. I know a lot of people have been looking forward to this game. I know I have. It looks really, really interesting. I love the concept of it. But if we're polishing, for quality, we don't want to release a game too early. So we're just going to let them continue to cook. Speaking of continuing to let people cook, GTA 6 has been delayed again to the end of 2026. This one comes from Chris Scullion. Hi, everyone. Rockstar said in a statement on X, Grand Theft Auto 6 will now release on Thursday, November 19th, 2026. We are sorry for adding additional time to what we realize has been a long wait, but these extra months will allow us to finish the game with the level of polish you have come to expect and deserve. We want to thank you again for the patience and support. While the wait is a little longer, we are incredibly excited for players to experience the sprawling state of Leonida and a return to modern-day Vice City. In a statement accompanying its latest financial results, Take-Two chairman and CEO Strauss Zelnick added Rockstar Games will now release Grand Theft Auto 6 on November 19, 2026. We remain both excited and confident that we will deliver an unrivaled blockbuster entertainment experience. With the most robust pipeline in our company's history, we expect to achieve levels of net bookings in fiscal 2027. which will establish a new baseline for our business and set us on a path of enhanced profitability. This is the second major delay for one of the most eagerly anticipated releases in entertainment. The game was previously supposed to release fall 2025, but earlier this year, Rockstar posted a statement announcing that the game had been moved back to May 26, 2026. This latest delay essentially pushes the game back a full year further than its initially proposed release window. In an interview with the game business, Zelnick said that the company believed the May 26th date, but that it had to be pushed back to ensure it meets the standards it expects of the product. When we set a date, we really do believe in it, he explained. We said when we set the last date, if a game requires more polish to be the best possible version of itself, then we will give that game more time, and that's exactly what happened. We feel really good about it. We feel really good about this release date, and it's in the same fiscal year. It happens to be a great release window, and naturally, we're really supportive of Rockstar's approach. I'm not surprised, honestly, because we hadn't seen anything else. Even with the delay, we didn't see anything else, and it, coming into, everybody thought, oh, we're going to see something at Game Awards, but I doubt we're going to see anything now. Let me know what you think. Are you looking forward to Grand Theft Auto 6? Are you disappointed with the delay? We'll see what comes of it. And into the last piece of news. This is just some small piece of news, but pretty awesome to me. Pix and Love Games, who earlier this year developed a official Expedition 33 art book, announced that the book will be adapted and distributed in the following countries: the US, the UK, Spain, Italy, Germany, Ukraine, and China. Several announcements will be made soon to share one by one the list of our international partners. So stay tuned. I'm going to be getting this. I don't know about y'all, but I'm going to be getting this because I love that game. I love that world. I love the art. And we'll talk about that more as we get more news from it. So next, I just want to do a quick shout out to the best in the world. CM Punk, our brand new world heavyweight champion. Once again, for those that follow the wrestling world, you know that Seth Rollins had to relinquish his title due to injury. This led to Punk, who was the number one contender at the time, to not have an opponent for Saturday night's main event. With that said, the now vacated title was up for grabs. CM Punk took on Jey Uso for the title, walking away with the title. Once again, the best in the world is world champion again. And I'm going to say this: I'm very happy. I just recently got tickets to a local show, and I'm hoping that he shows up as champion. It'll be the first time I see Punk in a ring as champion. So I'm very excited for that. Moving on. So a new trend started on social media a little over a month ago called 10 Games to Know Me, where everyone posted their profile pictures with covers of 10 games to get to know them. This trend started as I started to prepare a list of my all-time favorite games that I wanted to go through on the podcast. And I felt that this would serve as a good point to kind of give everyone an idea of my taste in games, if you haven't already had a bit of it in my show over the last 18 plus episodes. But I figured let's get into this trend and go through top the 10 games to know me. Now, this list of games are games that influenced me and shaped me into the gamer that I am today. While some of these games may appear on my all-time favorite games list, they aren't exactly my top 10 favorite games of all time. So we are going to get into it. And with this list, whittling it down to 10 games that truly shaped me was tough. And I'm going to kick it off with a few honorable mentions before we get into those 10 games. And we're going to talk about those games a little bit and why I love them so much and why they influenced me so much. One of the games, and I unfortunately don't have any footage of this just because of time constraints, but an honorable mention, WrestleMania 2000 on the Nintendo 64. I'm a big wrestling fan, as we just talked a little bit about wrestling, and that was one of the first wrestling games I ever played. Besides, WrestleMania, the arcade game, and things like that. WrestleMania 2000, I remember playing it with my best friend Matt. Shouts out to Matt. He had the N64 with that game, and we used to play that a lot. I mean, a lot. And it was just an amazing time. And like I said, I love wrestling, so naturally, wrestling games. I've been playing wrestling games since then, and we're talking No Mercy. We're talking WCW versus NWO. Uh, Here Comes the Pain. Um, the WWE 2K games, the SmackDown versus Raw games. One of my all-time favorites, WWE Day of Reckoning 2 on the GameCube. So, again, games that shaped me as a wrestling fan. I had to throw that in as an honorable mention. But taking it back, just back to the beginning. Spider-Man versus the Kingpin on the Sega Genesis. This I'm a big Spider-Man fan. Venom is one of my all-time favorite comic book characters. Spider-Man is my favorite hero, my favorite comic book. I've got actually. It's funny enough. There's another game in this time frame that came out that was Spider-Man Maximum Carnage, that was based on my all-time favorite Spider-Man storyline, which is the Maximum Carnage storyline. But this game was just amazing for the time we were in. I mean, again, Sega Genesis. There was a lot of Marvel games out, but this, I don't know. This is one of the games that just made me fall even more in love with Spider-Man and the characters, the world. Kingpin as a villain, just it's just a fantastic game for the time. I mean, we're talking about web crawling, and we have, as you can see down here, web fluid energy. So as you use your web fluids and you run out of web fluids, you can't use it anymore. You can't swing. You can't, the jumping mechanisms, the crawling mechanisms, all of it was just. It's an amazing game, especially again, like I said, for the time that it was. And it went on, we went on to get, like I said, Maximum Carnage. We also had the Spider-Man and X-Men game, Arcade's Revenge, which led us into, this generation led us into the Spider-Man game of 2000, which featured Venom as well and Carnage in the Dreamcast PlayStation era. So just an honorable mention that I had to throw out there. Staying within the same era, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, another honorable mention. This game, I remember me and my brother going through countless of times through this game together. We are fans of beat 'em ups, and this is probably one of the top best beat 'em up games of all time, in my opinion. Up there with a few other titles as well. This is just again, the countless of hours and time that we spent playing this game, the times that we've played through the entire game through it together, even individually. I mean, I know there was a remake that was released a few years back that unfortunately was delisted. That was a remaster remake kind of this game, but I feel that since this game, Turtles games, I've always had to live up to this level. This is what they had to live up to always was Turtles in Time. Um, the mechanics, the specials, how different each individual turtle was. Just like I said, the sets, just the stages and how they were designed, the stage designs, uh, the hazards, the different foot ninjas. Just again, one of my favorite games out there, and it didn't make the 10 games, but it definitely deserved its own mention in here. Moving on, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Now, I threw this in as an honorable mention because this game influenced me not just, you know, I wasn't a skater. I didn't I didn't know the skate culture until this game came out. Uh, but it wasn't just that; it was the music. The soundtrack of this game was so amazing, and to this day, there is music I listen to that I enjoy and love that came from the love of the music from this game. I mean, the soundtrack was just amazing. This was I want to say probably the first time I ever heard the song Ace of Spades by Motorhead. And of course, a little bit on in my life, going back to wrestling, with Motorhead doing the theme for the entrance music for Triple H, and subsequently Evolution after that, and Motorhead's big influence on wrestling as a whole, just bringing those two worlds together for me. But again, the music of this game was just amazing, and it was such a fun game. It was fun getting together with your friends to try to get the highest score and try to beat all these challenges in this game. You can tell how horrible I am at this game now by the amount of times I've fallen in this playthrough that I did here. Even that. But you could tell just how big of an impact this had on gamers all over, whether they were skate fans or not. Um, Falling in love with this game. Subsequently into 2, 3, 4, Underground. I think that it stopped being just about skating, and it became just like, again, a cultural phenomenon in and of itself in the gaming culture. So it just it deserves its shout out in this list. Moving on, Tekken 2 on the PlayStation. Okay. As you know, as a TO for an FGC and a lover of Tekken, this was my first Tekken game. I played this and won, but I played this one first, and you know, one of my all-time favorites, Tekken 3. But it all started here was Tekken 2, and it was a very different game back then. But I just absolutely fell in love with not just this franchise, but the characters as well, and it got me. It 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 put me one step closer to, you know, becoming the fighting game fanatic that I am, and it subsequently becoming, you know, a player in a community, playing competitively, playing Tekken competitively, although not well, but you know, it's again Tekken 2 entry point to Tekken for me. Um, Tekken 5, Tekken 3, Tekken 5, 6. and then 7, which was where I really just went in deep into Tekken 7. Um, Again, the story was amazing. The characters, the different types of characters, all of that. The stage, I mean, even the stages, look at these backgrounds. There's just the lighting, the shadows, just the moves, things like that. It was all just, I was in awe. So now we're going to move into the 10 games that shaped me, the 10 games to know Sir Snorlax. And I'm going to get into a little bit of each game. And up first, Indigo Prophecy. Now, here it's going to say Fahrenheit. That is the original release, but I knew it as Indigo Prophecy. Fahrenheit, Indigo Prophecy. It's a supernatural murder mystery game that begins when Lucas Kane commits a murder while seemingly possessed. As a player, you control Lucas as he tries to escape the police. And you also play as detectives Carla Valenti and Tyler Miles, who are investigating the crime. The story, the detectives uncover clues about secret societies and a prophecy concerning an indigo child who holds the key to humanity's future. It was published by Quantic Dreams back in 2005. Now, the reason why this game is on this list is because I knew of Quantic Dreams from one of the first games I played of theirs, Omicron: The Nomad Soul, which is a favorite of mine. But this game, it was a playable cinematic movie, and you'll see here as we get into the gameplay of it all. But it was the decisions that you made impacted the story and took the game in different directions. Here, as the synopsis read, Lucas is in the toilet getting possessed, and he's about to do something heinous. Now, this version that we're playing here is the remastered version on the PC, which runs terribly for some reason. But I was able to get enough footage for this. I originally played this game on the PS2. It was a weird thing. I read about it in a magazine. I want to say it was Game Informer, maybe. And I read the plot, and how it was like a movie, and so I bought the game. Again, I knew it as Indigo Prophecy, without knowing that it's outside of the U.S. It was called Fahrenheit, and it included quick time events, and you made different decisions and how you played certain scenarios out. Changed the path of the story. To get into a little bit of spoilers, if you said the right thing, certain things happen. Lucas has an ex-girlfriend whom he misses very dearly during this whole thing, and you're about to see something here. This meter right there, that's your mental state, and the things that happen in the world that affect you. Affect your mental meter, and how the lower, if you get too low, you might yourself, right? Because it's just too much to handle, and the decisions you make. So I'll go through just some scenarios here. So like right here, we're gonna move the body, right? So we move the body. We could just leave it there and walk out, but we want to buy ourselves some time, right? Because we've just done this heinous thing, and we don't know what's going on, right? We take the mop, and we clean the floor. Try to not make it so obvious. Uh, Bloody mop. And as we take these actions, you see our mental state meter go up and up. This is kind of silly though. So we investigate blood in the stall, right? That from our arms, and then we urinate. Let me tell you, it's not the first person that urinates in that bathroom in this game uh, at the wrong time. What are we gonna do with the knife, right? We got to get rid of it. Now, mind you, we play the detectives as well, so we know both sides. So we went from depressed to anxious. We're gonna wash ourselves up, get all this blood off of us. I love how he like gets it off his like the blood is just gonna come off with a little bit of water off of his clothes. Now we're just stressed. Now we went from anxious. We went from depressed to anxious to stressed, and we go outside now. In doing this, I did this a little differently, but there's options. So I could walk out the back and not pay my tab, right? And then you become a highlight to the waitress because you didn't pay your bill. You could sit down and start eating, and you leave traces of blood, your own blood, on the in the booth. Um, you look at your bill and all that. You could get caught in the diner and go to jail and never find out what happened. So there's a ton of different things that we can do in this game to influence the how the story goes. Again, there's a scene where if you say the right things to your ex, you end up kind of hooking up. There are you end up getting with one of the detectives if you say the right things, um, and and uncover different parts of the story. Your characters could die. Now, the reason why I play this game so many times, I've gone through the story so many different times, um, but this the reason why this game is on my list is because games like this, these story driven these games, um, for me are some of the best. Quantic Dream, after this title, gave us Heavy Rain, one of the greatest story games that I've played in a in my entire life. Um, but if it wasn't for, and it's quite possible that seeing Heavy Rain for what it was, I would have played it anyway. But knowing what Quantic Dream did with Indigo Prophecy and taking that concept and bringing it to a PS3 at a different level with even more. I mean, it just so much more. So many different characters, a story, the elements, and how it evolved from what they did with Indigo Prophecy to Heavy Rain was just amazing, and it made me excited because I knew what they were capable of. So and then that led into Beyond Two Souls and Detroit, and now hopefully someday in the near future, the Star Wars game that they're working on. While I became a fan of Quantic Dream with Omicron, the Nomad's Soul, Indigo Prophecy for me um, was what brought me, made me fall in love with this style of game, this type of game, and um, moving into even outside of this company, Telltale games like The Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us, the Batman game, things like that. Those types of, make decisions, story driven games. Um, I explored more because of what this game gave me. So it had to go on the list. And it may not be one of the greatest games of all time, critically acclaimed, whatnot, but It may not be one of Quantic Dream's best games. For me, it's right up there with some of the best games. Just because, like I said, it was. I played it and played it and played it so many times. Try to make different decisions. And the music, going back to music, there were songs in the soundtrack by Theory of a Dead Man. I fell in love with Theory of a Dead Man because of this um, game. Gasoline, Santa Monica, No Way Out, just to name a few songs in the game, all came from this. So, moving on to the next title, Mega Man Legends for the PS1 and N64. Um, Mega Man Legends follows Mega Man Volnut, a digger exploring ancient ruins with his companions Roll and Professor Barrel. More, um, to be more specific, Roll being like his sister, adopted sister, and Professor Volnut adopted grandfather because he was found. Their ship, the Flutter, crashes on Catalog's Island, where they are soon targeted by by the pirate family, the Bonds, who seek treasure on the island. The Legends series is set on a flooded Earth where only a few scattered islands remain, and energy sources are scarce. To meet the growing demand for energy to power machinery, people rely on quantum refractors found in ancient ruins. Shards of these refractors are used as currency. However, the ultimate goal for most people is to find the Mother Lode, a legendary item of infinite power that could solve the energy crisis once and for all. Those who explore these ruins in search of refractors are known as diggers, or dig outers in the Japanese version. They are assisted by spotters who use technology to map the digger's path and help them avoid or defeat Reaver bots, hostile robots that guard the ruins. And also, there's a there's a monkey named Data who reminds me of Kiki from Legend of Zelda. Um, this game gave us Tron Bonne and the little robot, the little Lego robots that you saw in the beginning. It was the first 3D Mega Man game that wasn't a side scroller with RPG elements. You could upgrade your armor and your weapons and things like that. While I will say the movement in this game is horrible, this I love Mega Man. I love Mega Man. I love the original Mega Man series. I love Mega Man X. This is my all-time favorite Mega Man. This and Legends 2. And damn it, Nintendo, Capcom, you promised us Mega Man Legends 3 on the 3DS and you never gave it to us. Capcom, get it together. Give us Legends 3. Give us remasters of this game, maybe with some better controls. I just love this game. I love the art style, the animated style of this game. The story, the voice acting, just the characters as a whole, the relationship between Mega Man and Tron Bonne, who like is this. They're teenagers, but they're enemies. But also, Tron Bonne has a crush on him. So it's like we're rival. We're your antagonist, but I kind of also like you. The silly little things that happen with the tiny robots, the story with the story behind Mega Man's origins, this Mega Man's origins, um, and Kiki as well, and leading into Mega Man Legends 2. But this, I love Mega Man Legends. I love Mega Man Legends 2 even more. But this has to be this is on my list because I always go back to this game. Uh, Mega Man Legends for me is to me the Mega Man. I'm gonna get a lot of heat for that, but to me that's my Mega Man. I love Mega Man X. Don't get me wrong. I love Zero, but this Mega Man is one of my favorites, and I had to include it on the list. And as we get through a little more of the game, you'll see again Buster parts. You get Buster parts to equip, and again, it's an RPG. It's an RPG Mega Man before Mega Man X Command Mission, I think it was called. That was a JRPG style type of game. Again, the movement sucked. The movement sucked. You can tell how I'm moving around. It just sucks. You had to use your R1 L1 to like strafe. You can set it either to do that or turn, where he does a turn with the stick, left and right, left and right. But you could either go strafe or turn, but you couldn't do it all. Like you couldn't turn the camera without doing that. It was just it was a it was PlayStation. It was a PlayStation and N64 game. What did you expect? I never played it on the 64, and there's been a lot of debate as to what the to me there, I've seen a debate as to which version is the superior one, but I always played it on the PlayStation 1 version, and I played the sequel on the PlayStation. I do believe the sequel is only on the PlayStation. At the time, it was an exclusive, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong, but this game came out. Let's see, 1997 in Japan, 1998 in North America. We also got a prequel in this series, The Misadventures of Tron Bonne, which is a prequel to Mega Man Legends. I'm just saying, I want a sequel. I want a three. Let's at least close out the story. You left us on two with a cliffhanger. Give us a third game. That's all I'm asking for. That's all I'm asking for. That's it. You know, you, you gave us a tease, but you never gave us the full. Makes me sad. It makes me really sad. Moving on. I'm gonna take it back a little bit again. Take it back to the Super Nintendo. Okay. This game was released in 1992, April 13th of 1992 to be exact, here in the U.S. The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. I know people talk about your Ocarinas of Times or your Twilight Princesses or your Breath of the Wilds or your Tears of the Kingdom. This is... Oh, and your Majora's Mask, too. Let's throw that one out there, too. A Link to the Past. To me, greatest Zelda game of all time. And it was my introduction into the Legend of Zelda as a whole. Fun story. I was never able to play this game when I was younger. I didn't actually play this game till many years later, because my brother didn't want me to mess up his save, which is valid, very valid. I think he had like 3 saves going. He was trying to beat it at the quickest time, and I never got to play it. But I played it years later, and I fell in love with it. If it wasn't for this Zelda, I would have never played any other. From Link's Awakening to the Oracle of Seasons and Ages, to Twilight Princess. We're not going to mention Wind Waker because I really don't like that game. Breath of the Wild. Um, this going from the original Legend of Zelda, then Zelda 2. Um, this was the first time, and I'll read the full synopsis. This is the first time that there's a different Link that is in the game. It's not a sequel. But in Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, the wizard Agahim takes over Hyrule and begins abducting maidens, descendants of the Seven Sages, to break the seal on the evil Ganon. Link receives a telepathic call from Princess Zelda and sets out to rescue her, leading to a quest to collect 3 pendants, retrieve the Master Sword, and then travel to the parallel Dark World. Once in the Dark World, Link must find and free the remaining maidens from dungeons to ultimately defeat Agahim and Ganon to restore peace to Hyrule. Like I said, this is the first game that introduced a different Link as opposed to the original Link from Legend of Zelda. And then the adventure of Link in Zelda 2. So we went back to the over-the-head view and gameplay style of the original Zelda game. This brought about the concept of 2 different worlds, the light and the dark world, which we saw again in Ocarina of Time, and if I'm not mistaken, in the Twilight Princess as well. It's it is to me, I feel one of the best Zelda games. The art style is amazing. The mechanics, the everything, the dungeons, just overall one of the best Zelda experiences I've ever had. Um, this is probably up there with up there in my all-time favorite list for sure. Like I said, some of these are gonna be, some of these not, but overall, it's an amazing game. I felt it was ahead of its time for the time, for Super Nintendo. I loved watching my brother play this game, and getting through it, and this, and then finally getting to play it myself was hard as hell, because I've never played a Zelda game up to that point. But this era of games to me was is unrivaled, in my opinion, and we'll see as we continue to get through the list. But um, this made me a fan of puzzles and dungeons, and then going into games like like Persona, right? Um, with the puzzles and dungeons there as well, and other Zelda games as well. So moving on to the next game. This game had a great impact on me. This is a game that led me to love a franchise that to this day I still love, and still don't understand as well. And it's Kingdom Hearts. And I love Kingdom Hearts. The concept of all of these Disney worlds and these Final Fantasy worlds coming together. At this time, I had only played one other Final Fantasy game. I'm sorry, two other Final Fantasy games. But it was such an amazing concept of wow, right? Just it's crazy. This intro, this song, by the way, is still on playlists of mine, multiple playlists of mine. Simple and clean, and subsequently other songs as well, from the franchise. But let's talk about what the game is. Sora, our main protagonist, Riku and Kairi build a raft, with the intent to leave their home world of Destiny Islands to explore new worlds. On the night before the planned voyage, the Heartless attack the islands, and Riku and Kairi disappear. Before the Heartless consume the islands, Sora mysteriously obtains the Keyblade, a weapon effective against the Heartless. Meanwhile, King Mickey has left his own world to deal with the increasing number of Heartless, leaving instructions for Donald and Goofy to find the key that will protect the worlds from encroaching darkness. Donald and Goofy use the gummy ship to travel to Traverse Town, where they find Sora after he wound up there following the destruction of his world. The three decide to travel together, Donald and Goofy to find Mickey, and Sora to find Kairi and Riku, traveling to various worlds and sealing their keyholes to prevent their heart from being consumed by the Heartless. Meanwhile, a group of Disney villains, led by Maleficent, seek out the seven princesses of heart to unlock the final keyhole that leads to Kingdom Hearts, a repository of knowledge and power and the source of all hearts. Maleficent also finds Riku and recruits him into her services, manipulating him into believing that Sora abandoned him. Now, what can I say about Kingdom Hearts except it's very hard. It's hard to keep up with. Now, there have been a total of 3 mainline Kingdom Hearts games. But, oh boy, the amounts of actual games that there are is crazy. I mean, astronomical. There are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games in this franchise alone, not including all of the remasters or remakes, not including Kingdom Hearts Final Mix of the original, not including Rechain of Memories, not including Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, not including there's like the prelude to 3. I forget the name of it that stars one of the other characters. That includes the mobile game. There is a podcast called Unlocking Kingdom Hearts, and everyone should give it a listen. It's not complete yet, but it goes through each individual game, and it's a group including Alexa Ray Correa, who is a founder of What's Good Games, and wrote a book about Kingdom Hearts 2, and it gives you insight on the game, and the panel includes someone who has never played Kingdom Hearts, and the rest of the panel they've all played but are replaying these games in the order that they came out, and it really gives you some insight and some more knowledge onto the lore of the game, because it can be a little convoluted, especially when if you play Kingdom Hearts 1 and you play Kingdom Hearts 2, there is a big story missing in the middle with Chain of Memories that is very important. But I love the themes, light and darkness and friendship and even the quote, "May your heart be your guiding key," has been very special to me, and I love the characters and how they've grown through the story, whether it be through one individual game like this one or others subsequently. I will say that I've beaten this game a handful of times just because of how much I loved it. Um, it's it was the combat system was very different. Like, again, I'm coming off of playing other Final Fantasies that are turn based, and now we have an action based RPG. Um, where you've got companions, but they're just there to back you up and help you in the fight. They're you're doing the you're Sora and you're playing as Sora, and that's who your fighting is. Um, the awesome part of having Disney characters become part of your party as well was pretty cool. Seeing characters from Final Fantasy in these worlds, um, ranging from Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy X, um, is just fantastic. And moving into the series and how it developed, it was just again, it's a franchise that stuck with me at this very point right here is Kingdom Hearts, and um, I feel that in maybe not as much as most, but I devoted a lot of time to this franchise, and it was because of how much I loved this particular game when I first played it. Um, Again, I would not call this my favorite Kingdom Hearts game, but it's what led me into the hole that is Kingdom Hearts. So, I mean, there's not much more I can say about it other than that. Um, so, moving on to our next title. The one that started it all for me. Final Fantasy VIII. We don't get Kingdom Hearts in my life without this game. We don't get JRPGs, RPGs without this game. Final Fantasy VIII. Okay? I'll get a lot of hate about this, but it is my favorite Final Fantasy game. I have others that I love, but this was my first step into the Final Fantasy realm. Um, this was my first Final Fantasy game. After this, I played 7, I played 10, and I played many others, but this was the entry point. Once again, this is one of those games that my brother introduced me to, and then I subsequently fell in love with as well. Um, the characters, even this intro, this epic intro that we're watching right now, like sucked you in. The song, we all know that song, we all know that hymn, you know, and then this this now you stay there and watch this and give me 30 seconds. Look at this epic battle, okay? And this right here, to me, one of the greatest weapons in video games. So much love that I have for this game and this weapon that, thanks to my brother, as a gift, I have my own. This is how much I love this game. Sorry, I gotta put it back in the sheet because I'm gonna have to put it somewhere for the rest of the show. But 1 second, please. Final Fantasy VIII, the Gunblade. Now, don't get me wrong. There ended up being another Gunblade in Final Fantasy franchise, but this is my favorite, my all-time favorite weapon, and the characters. I love the characters. Granted, Squall could get annoying sometimes, but he was also just this. He was a loner, and I think I always found myself to feel a bit of a loner. So I guess I kind of related in that sense. Um, the gameplay, like I said, just the epic opening, leading into this, your first mission, before you go into your CD exam. But I got a little ahead of myself. Let me read the quick synopsis here. The story of Final Fantasy VIII follows Squall Leonhardt, a cadet in a military academy called Balam Garden. Squall strives to become a seed. That's capital SEE, capital D. A mercenary who can wield magic with the aid of magical beings known as Guardian Forces, GFs. Balam Garden is the only institution in the world to allow the use of the beings, and their use mimics the power of a sorceress. Women who can use magic naturally, who are both feared and revered. Though initially a loner, Squall's quest has him befriend various people, and he learns to depend on them as the seeds get involved in a mission of protecting the world. Um, and this is the official, I believe, introduction of the box art. At the forefront of a rising tide of violence brought on by Galbadia's war declaration is a seed cadet named Squall Leonhardt. Serious to a fault, Squall has earned himself the reputation of being a lone wolf. A chance encounter with the free-spirited Renoa Hartley, however, turns his universe upside down. Having thrived on discipline, Squall finds Renoa's carefree attitude fascinating. Yet there is no time to ponder these thoughts, for the job of dealing with the sorcerers behind Galbadia's irrational hostility has fallen to Seed and Squall. The monsters, the character designs, Zell that we meet later on in the game. He was like, the hand-to-hand guy. He was one of my favorite characters. He was just silly and fun and cool. With the face tattoo, and going through this mission that we're going through. So that we could enter the seed exam. This mission, and I'm going to skip a little bit of this because these fights. This is my first turn-based combat game, and I loved it. I loved the junction system, even though people hate it. There, I play games and see inspiration of 7 and 8 and 10 and things like that. And I've talked about this before with another game. This right here is just epic. Fighting Ifrit. This is just an epic freaking fight. And then, the GFs, Quetzalcoatl and Shiva, and bringing them out and summoning them. The trigger system with the gunblade to, have increased trigger damage. The GFs were badass. Diablos is one of my favorite GFs. Brothers, another favorite of mine. Leviathan was always cool. Alexander and Odin and so many others. And their interactions mid-fight, you're about to see, we bring out Shiva and Ifrit's reaction to Shiva, and the conversations that happen in between the game, in between the fight, were also just fantastic to me. In my, at the time, I played this game so many times. Right now, what you're looking at is the PC version of the game, of the original release, just uprest a little bit. They have Shiva, Um, I own it on the Switch in the remastered version. Um, the draw system and how how you use how you get magic and utilize magic. Um, Again, it was just to me ahead of its time. Uh, I love this game, and I hope that others give it the appreciation it deserves because it gets hated on a lot. Um, this game deserves a remake just as much as Seven deserved a remake. This game deserves a remake as well. A remake with voice acting and you don't need to redo the story, or maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe make a little bit more sense. Um, Even spoilers, the fact that the time travel aspect of going back into the memories of another character, Laguna, and who he was, and getting that whole story of Laguna and Kairos and Ward, the connections between the sorceress and Adia, and how we bring about Ultimecia, stuff like that. It was phenomenal. And then eventually Ifrit joins you at the end of the fight. I don't again, without Final Fantasy VIII, for me, no Final Fantasy X, no Final Fantasy VII, no Final Fantasy 13, no Personas, no, and Persona I got into recently, um, no Chrono Trigger, no Claire Obscure. Like, this is what started me on turn-based RPGs. Like, no Tales games. So, moving on to the next one. The next one is a very important one. We talked about Tekken earlier as an honorable mention, but this right here, Street Fighter 2, specifically Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but I'm also going to talk about the entirety of the Street Fighter 2s. We had so many iterations of Street Fighter 2, um, whether it be Street Fighter 2, the original, the World Warrior, and then the differences, between the Champion Edition and Street Fighter 2 Turbo, or Hyper Fighting as they all called it so much. Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Hyper Street Fighter 2, Ultra Street Fighter 2. Just the amount of times this game has not only been remade but ported to um, different systems is amazing. But officially, um, Street Fighter 2 is a tournament-style fighting game where the evil leader of the Shadowloo organization, M. Bison, sets up a world tournament to find powerful fighters for his brainwashing program. The game features a cast of international fighters, each with their own motivations for competing, such as Chun-Li seeking revenge for her father's death, and Guile seeking to avenge his friend. Players choose a character to battle their way through the other fighters and ultimately confront Bison and the other three kings in Balrog, Vega, and Sagat. Sagat being the original boss in Street Fighter 1, a game that didn't get played as much. But we also had Honda, Blanca, Zangief, Dalsim, Ryu, and Ken. And then there was other characters that came in afterwards, like Fei Long, Cammy, T-Hawk, DJ, Kuma. The first iteration of Street Fighter 2, you couldn't use the four kings. And the upgrades later on, you were able to utilize, the four kings after that. Each version is very different from each other, just based on, what just in Street Fighter 2 Turbo, you could do that hurricane kick across the stage in the air. After that, he goes down after that this iteration. Before this, you couldn't even do it in the air. So just different things, the combo system and how it's all accidental, the story of all that, but also the music. The music is iconic. Um, just to talk about it a little bit, the I'm trying to find the the individual who um, composed this music is highly regarded, and I always forget her name. Yoko Shimomura. Now, Yoko Shimomura is known for her works in Final Fight, Street Fighter II, um, and other games. After she left Capcom, she joined Square, now Square Enix, for Live Alive, and Super Mario RPG, Legend of Mana, Parasite Eve, and Kingdom Hearts. She worked on the Mario and Luigi series, Xenoblade Chronicles, um, Breath of Fire, even Final Fantasy 15. So, to say the least, there's so many themes in this game that are to this day iconic. I mean, Ryu's theme, Ken's theme, um, um, Guile's theme. Guile's theme has got to be one of the most iconic themes of all time. Um, Balrogs and Vegas. Uh, Vegas theme is one of my favorites, especially in Street Fighter V when they did a flamenco rendition of it. It was fantastic. And the song, the themes that they've been utilized in this game, in this series, um, have not changed as much, but they've been retooled, recomposed in like 4 and 5. But also in Third Strike, which is a completely brand new soundtrack, and it's probably one of the best um, fighting game soundtracks of all time, in my opinion. But my love for fighting games started here. Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and all the other iterations after that. This is where, for me, and for a lot, not just me, a lot of people started here. Fighting games, they loved fighting games because of this or Mortal Kombat, but mostly because of this. Only because Mortal Kombat eventually died and became unpopular in the fighting game community because, well, let's not get into that. Anyway, but again, just there was a lot of unknowns, but we got a lot of story in these endings, the endings of these characters, and we knew a little bit about the motivations because of the box art or the manual and things like that. Ryu has got to be one of the most iconic characters of all time. By far, one of the most iconic characters of all time. Very recognizable, very notable, and this game in particular spawns so many so much other media to the point where you had action figures, you had GI Joe did a line of Street Fighter figures. We had Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, one of my favorite animated movies. Back in 1994, we had that live-action Street Fighter movie that starred Jean-Claude Van Damme that we don't really talk about. Street Fighter 2 V. Um, there was the Legend of Chun Li. movie as well that was not that great. Even to this day, we are now in the midst of the development of a brand new live action Street Fighter movie. So Street Fighter influenced a lot and spawned what is now the fighting game genre, and it all dates back to this. This is the granddaddy of them all. Um, there is no Tekken, uh, there is no Guilty Gear, there is no Blaze Blue, there's no uh, there's no Fatal Fury, there's no uh, King of Fighters, just to name a few, without Street Fighter 2. So it had to go on there because, again, right here, Ryu. It's basically a Street Fighter 2 tribute tattoo because of that. Um, because it's what's written on Ryu's gi and gloves, and the without this game and my love for fighting games coming from this game, I don't join the FGC much later in life and meet some of my best friends now. Um, and get to help build this amazing community that is the Southwest Florida FGC, and these amazing and wonderful people that I get to be um, around on a weekly basis. And it's just, again, I don't have that. I don't meet people like I've got the opportunity to meet at different events, and um, amazing, wonderful people at CEO that I've gotten to meet and build relationships with and friendships with, and just have that camaraderie. And because we love this genre, we love these games and the competitive aspect of it all. And I don't have that without this game. And that's why it's so important to me. Um, so, moving on to the next game. Streets of Rage. Let's get you with a synopsis real quick. What was once a peaceful, prosperous city has fallen into the hands of a syndicate led by a man known only as Mr. X. The syndicate has absorbed the city's government. Anyone could be bought if the price is right, and even the city's police in their pockets. Ugh, sorry, and even has the city's police in their pockets. Crime is rising rapidly, and no one is safe walking the streets day or night. Three police officers, Adam Hunter, Axel Stone, and Blaze Fielding, repeatedly try to make a task force to counter and resist the syndicate, but with their superiors either bought out and bribed by the syndicate or too fearful to stick their necks out, nothing is done. Finally, Adam, Axel, and Blaze decide to take matters into their own hands and resign from the police force, taking to the streets as vigilantes to put a stop to the syndicate. They are willing to risk everything, even their lives, on the streets of Rage. I talked earlier about TMNT and my love for beat 'em ups. This is the franchise that I fell in love with beat 'em ups through. Yes, we had the final fights, but Streets of Rage is just by far, to me, one of the best. Not just this game, but its sequels after that were amazing. I mean, amazing. The soundtrack, by God, the music just in this game alone is. Let me. Yuzo Koshiro with this Sega Genesis in this created one of the greatest soundtracks to a video game when it comes to Streets of Rage, and then 2, and so on. The mechanics are fantastic. The character designs I always felt were amazing. The villains were awesome. The fluidity of it all. We brought in special attacks in other in other games, but this was my first one. This was the first one. This is the one that me and my brother played almost religiously. We have beat this game together so many times. It's insane, and it spawned essentially 3 sequels: Streets of Rage 2, Streets of Rage 3, and Streets of Rage 4. This was on the Sega Genesis. This game came out in 1991. It has since originally was called Bare Knuckle. And the characters were amazing. I was always an Axel guy. Well, my brother played Adam because he had the back kick. He had that back kick, and Adam only had or Axel only had the like jumping knee. I'm sorry, no, he had the spin fist. That's what it was. It was a spin fist. This motherfucker looking over here like trying to be Captain Boomerang over here. But the items, picking up the items, and like I said, I know we had Final Fight, but this was my all-time favorite beat 'em up, and Turtles in Time, Final Fight, Street, and others after that, even the Scott Pilgrim games that are side-scroller beat 'em ups. We've got Captain America and the Avengers on this SNES, on the SNES. I think it was on the Genesis too. We had now coming up. We have Marvel Cosmic Invasion coming out. We had Shredder's Revenge recently come out as a beat 'em up in this modern era with the side scroller style of these games. These games will always be my favorite types of games, and four. What they did with 4 was amazing. And how they revamped the soundtrack. Just how to keep that. The soundtrack was just everything. The music, and to this day, I could put on the soundtrack to this game and just be completely just amazed with it. So with that, we move on to the next game. We got 3 games left. And I had to do it. You know it. You know me. If you know me, you know. This game had to be on the list. Games to know me. This had to be on the list. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So I have a love for Sonic that is deeper than just the game itself. Okay. As y'all can see here, I've got a Sonic tattoo. Back in 1996, I was 6 years old. I had to leave Guatemala on my own to live with my grandmother and my aunt and my grandfather, um, while my family tried to um, basically get their paperwork together for their visas to return into the country, which meant that I had to be away from for a short time, just a short time, my father, but then for a few years, my brother and my mother. And my brother had two Sega Genesis, the original model and the smaller one. And he sent me, and he gave me the Sega Genesis, the smaller version, Sega Genesis 2, I guess you could call it, um, with a few games. If I remember correctly, those games were Spider-Man versus Kingpin, X-Men, which I feel probably should have gotten an honorable mention as well, but um, and Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And I loved Sonic. I loved Sonic from when I was younger. I loved Sonic. I remember I had this plush that my aunt sent me from here in the United States when I was in when we were living in Guatemala. It was this little plush Sonic, and I loved Sonic. Sonic was always my favorite. Um, Sonic became a part of a comfort in a part of my life um, when I was in a strange new place with strange new people, um, away from my immediate family. It was that level of comfort that Sonic gave me, a connection to my brother, um, and through this game, and through Street Fighter 2 as well. Um, I also built a relationship with um, couple of college guys. Mind you, I'm 6, 7 years old. Um, we lived in this 3-story, I guess you could call it, house with, and each floor was basically an apartment, and they had a basement too, right? And when my father was finally able to get to the state, we to the states, we moved into that basement, and there was two areas in that basement. There was just a singular room, and then next to it was a large living space. It was like another apartment, pretty much. Um, and it's funny because thinking back on it, silly little thing, but it had a great impact on me. There was this German college students that just moved in. I remember one of them's name was Mario, and I that's who I was mostly close to, was Mario. But they were both awesome guys. Um, I annoyed Mario's brother a lot, and so he didn't like me as much. But it was Sonic where we connected, because when they were moving in, they were coming into the room, and they happened to spot me playing Sonic, and I at the time didn't speak very much English, if at all any, and we built this relationship, this 6-year-old kid with these 20-something-year-olds that loved video games as well, um, and I learned a lot through them. And it was because of this game. You know, I learned more English from them than I did from the school I was going to. I love Seinfeld because these guys introduced me to Seinfeld. And I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer because these guys introduced me to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I love Scream because of the same reason. It all comes down to this game. This game initiated that connection between us that um, to them, I guarantee to this day, they don't even remember who I am. But to me, I'll always remember them because of a time when I didn't realize how, I guess, much it impacted me being away from my family. Um, I learned a lot through them, and Sonic, in my mind, was like a friend, a comfort, you know, in a lonely time. And so that's why Sonic is such a big part of my life and why I love Sonic so much is because of the impact that it had throughout my life. Um, I love Sonic as a whole. I've loved the movies. I've loved the games. Even the games that sucked, I've played. Um, Sonic 2 will always hold a very special place in my heart because of that. And Street Fighter 2 as well, because we bonded through that as well. Um, but Sonic 2 forever. I mean, just if you look at my life, you'll see that there's a few things that are always there. There's always Spider-Man, Sonic, Street Fighter, and the other thing we're going to talk about soon. Even here, one of my best friends, Jules, gave me this. I still have it to hold my controller. Um, it's it's a part of a big part of me, and that's why every Sonic game that's ever come out, I've played, even the ones that I don't really enjoy. Um, Sonic CD was another game that I loved, but this was the first. So, moving on. This game is a new game, and it's it's on this list because of the impact it had on me. It still has on me, and that's Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Between the music, the story, I tell you that I played this game initially because it had a lot of acclaim, but I fell in love with it as I got deeper and deeper into the story. I and spoilers for anybody watching this. This is towards the end of the game. Sorry, but the music, the artistry, uh, there's elements of this game that reminds me of games of that shaped me. The games that like Final Fantasy VIII, like Final Fantasy X, um, like Final Fantasy VII. There's elements of it all in here, and the characters. I fell in love with the characters, um, the story, um, the the way it talks about grief and how we handle it as someone who in the past has had a difficulty dealing with grief, and it spoke to me. The soundtrack, and it is just an amazing soundtrack that um since I played this game I have not stopped listening to it. Um and I'm not going to get too deep into it because you guys have already heard me talk about this game so much before already on this show. But um it had to be on my list because again, it's a part of me that now I look at this game at such high regard and look for And in the future, I will look towards other games and think and compare it to this game, or find elements from this in other games. So it had to be in there. It had to be on this list. Like I said, um, just how the complexity of the story, of the emotions that this game puts you through, the characters and each one of them, Lune and Ciel and Verso and Mael and even Gustav and the impact the character like SKA can have on you, and even Monoko is just, again, it's such an amazingly written game. Um, it's such a fun game. It's a difficult game. I still don't parry very well, but it's one of those things where it just didn't frustrate me because I wanted to keep going. I wanted to get better. So that had to be on the list. And finally, the final game on my list. It's, again, in my life, so it's been Spider-Man, Sonic, Street Fighter, and Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid. Let's get into the plot first. In 2005, Renegade genetically enhanced Special Forces Unit Foxhound seizes control of a remote island in Alaska's Fox Archipelago, codenamed Shadow Moses, which houses a nuclear weapons disposal facility. Foxhound threatens to use the nuclear-capable mecha Metal Gear Rex, being secretly tested at the facility, against the U.S. government if they do not receive the remains of Big Boss and a ransom of $1 billion within 24 hours. Solid Snake is forced out of retirement by Colonel Roy Campbell to infiltrate the island and neutralize the threat. Now, this game came out in 1998. I didn't play this game till 1999. And actually, if I'm looking at this correctly, it came out in September in Japan and in October in North America, and I played it, I would say, probably around the time it came out in Europe. Okay, now I'm gonna take you back to that time frame when Blockbuster was a thing, and it was me and my brother once again, and we rented this game called Metal Gear Solid. Now, my brother had read about this game, and it was a stealth game, and it was very fascinating. The graphics, everything was very fascinating about it. We were very fascinated, and I watched him play through it, and I fell in love with this game. The story, the characters, the level, the design of this game, the details. Okay, just as we saw there, I'm walking and someone heard my footsteps, or if I'm walking in the sand and I leave footprints behind, the soldiers see it. The sounds I make, cameras, everything, just. But the stories, the voice acting, by God, David Hayter gave us one of the most iconic voices in Solid Snake. And at the time, I didn't realize that this was actually a sequel to a franchise that came out back in the days of the NES. Granted, that wasn't what it was, the MSX really, but there was a version of Metal Gear on the NES. That's how far back this franchise went, and the story went. The fights. I mean, going through this story, the I'm just gonna put it out right now. The Psycho Mantis fight is got to be one of the most legendary boss fights in video game history. What went into the design of that? From the blackout of the screen, him controlling things and controlling Meryl, and you having to fight her off when he's controlling her while he's doing his thing, and his teleportation, and how he's reading your every action, and so you can't hit him. Boom, you put the controller on port 2, and you're able to play the game on the player 2 port and kick his ass because he can't read your mind anymore. The fact that in the intro to that fight, he reads your memory card of games that you've played. um, I think it were Konami games that he speaks about. If you played it, if you had a memory card save spot for Castlevania or something like that, he would tell you. Um, it just that fight alone. I mean, it was just awesome and mind blowing to be in that fight. Just that fight alone. Going into the other fights, the fight with the tank, having to like aim grenades into a hole, the fight with Vulcan Raven, and you know having to sneak up on him, and using different parts of the environment in that cold warehouse. Um, the sniper wolf fight, both sniper wolf fights, the fight with the Hind D, um, and eventually the fight with the Metal Gear, and then the fight against Gray Fox when you get introduced to this cyborg ninja. There's this badass cyborg ninja that just is hunting you down, and you know you've learned that there's a history between these two. You find out the identity of this Gray Fox is um, Snake's old war buddy from the original Metal Gear game. Um, in the characters, Snake, and even Naomi Hunter, and Roy Campbell, and Meryl, and Otacon, even the villains. Revolver Ocelot, that fight with Revolver Ocelot, I always remember that. Revolver Ocelot, Liquid Snake, Master Miller, not being a villain, but just Master Miller and who he is. Um, you know, it was again a game that was ahead of its time, and it showed you the mind and the genius that is Hideo Kojima. Um, and what came after? What came after this? With Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, 4, 5, Peace Walker, even Portable Ops, even though it's technically not canon. Um, all of that is just this is my all-time favorite franchise. So it had to be on this list because in this game specifically, because this is the one that introduced me into the series and made me a fan. Um, and it's funny because the game has two endings. The fight with another fight that was iconic was the fight with Liquid Snake on top of the Metal Gear. To just to tell you how many times I've played this game is I wouldn't be able to. But even the remake, the Twin Snakes that came out for the GameCube. God, I played that game so many times. So anyone who knows me knows Metal Gear is just a part of my life. I plan to get a Metal Gear tattoo in the future. That's how much I love this franchise. Um, and that's the the things that you get to do this game too. Some of the puzzles that you find along the way. I say puzzles, but like the amount of times you have to visit certain areas because you have to go back because now you have the key card for this. The interactions with the different characters and things like that are just um, again, it's just this game was very special. Um, and I think that I don't foresee finding a franchise like Metal Gear Solid ever again in my life. I love other games and other franchises, but that's the number one. So, with that said, those are the 10 games to know me. Again, these aren't all my top 10 games, but they're definitely games that influence and shape me for who I am. Um, After this, now that we've established this, I know we can do a top games of all time, and I think we're going to be doing like a top 50 games of all time. Um, so, thank you all for listening to this. Thank you for supporting the show as always. I truly do appreciate you all. Um, we've got our episode number 18 has been one of our biggest episodes. Shouts out again to Zoe, Dizzy, and Tengu for joining me for that. And we're going to keep doing these types of things, special things. Uh, but like I said, coming up, we're going to have a top 50 games of all time. I might change that, but I might have to do 100. Uh, we're going to be talking about Game Awards. We're going to be talking about Game Awards. Game Awards coming up in about a month. And Grammys, screw y'all. How is Claire Obscure not nominated for a Grammy in the video game category? Just throwing that out there. But Golden Joystick Awards are also going to be coming up soon. The voting's still open for that, and we know Claire Obscure is on the Ultimate Game of the Year for that. We got Game Awards. We're going to be talking more about that in a later episodes as well. All to wrap up and close out the year with my own personal game of the years, which I'm sure you all know what's going to be number one already. But with that said, as always, I thank you all for your support. Be good or be good at it. Thank you.